So you're trying to build a gaming PC in 2022. Well, you could have picked a better year, to be honest. GPU prices are very high. Even just used computers going up in price, everything pretty much going up in price at the moment from what we've seen. It's going to be difficult. But I just want to take this video to share with you some things that I've learned through building my own gaming PCs, and what kind of tips I can use to kind of help you through that process. It can be quite a daunting thing if you want to build one from scratch. I would not recommend building one from scratch. You have to have some knowledge of how all the parts in the PC fit together. If you're a beginner, it's not something I think is easy to do. Especially, so you have the motherboard, you have the GPUs, they all slot in, and the CPU, and you have to know, what kind of architectures they're on, because some CPUs are too new and they won't work with older motherboards. And so it's a complicated thing to kind of sort out. And so what I think is best for someone starting, forget all these guides on building your own PC and stuff, and where to get the cheap parts. For most people, I think doing that is actually the wrong way to go about it, and probably more costly than is actually necessary. You should certainly not worry about pre-built gaming PCs. Generally, anything used is okay to buy, but things with the gaming in quotes stuff used goes for a premium, because the gaming word will charge probably about an extra 50 to 30% probably for what it's worth if you just didn't put that gaming word in your search listing, if you list it on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or something. So gaming PCs are overhyped generally. And the worst thing, people put them on Facebook, it doesn't even have a GPU, and they say it's a gaming PC. I'm sorry, if your PC does not have a GPU, it is in no way a gaming PC, because it won't run anything. So these are the things you have to be worried about and kind of look out for. So forget this guide and stuff. So how did I build my gaming PC? So I started maybe 5 years ago or something, when I was in university trying to get a kind of PC. I had a laptop until then, and it wasn't particularly useful, and I kind of wanted to play some games with friends and such. So what I did is I got an old office PC from an office that they put on eBay, I think, at the time, or on Gumtree, which is a site people use in the UK for selling stuff. Facebook would probably work for most of you guys. But yeah, this was an old office PC with a kind of i5 processor, quad core, has the hard drive, has the power supply, has the motherboard, has the case. You don't need to worry about any of that stuff. All you need to do is get a GPU and slot it in there. Very easy to do. And this is the kind of thing, again, when I upgraded that PC a few years ago, the actual old PC held its resale value very well. So this old office PC that I had, just take the GPU out of it, sell that separately, on eBay or something, and then the actual PC, just get someone to collect it and ship it out. And so I was gaming on this thing for years, and in the end, the cost that it took to buy it and then sell it, I probably only paid like £30 based on what it was for years of having an actual working PC. So often you'd be surprised how well some of the slightly older makes of computers hold their value. So this is something you should look out for as well. So if you want to buy the best new thing, the newest CPU, the newest GPU, in a year it'll be outdated, and it will basically, it might halve its value or something like that. So in my opinion, if you're going for value, which you probably are if you're watching this video, you never want to go for, the top components, the top PC, the top motherboard, the top CPU. Just forget about it. It's not worth it. What you should do, be a few years behind the curve. Those games, you can still run them very well. You can still run them on medium settings, quite comfortably, even high settings. I ran a number of games, for quite a while. You may not be able to run the latest AAA on Ultra, but you've got to ask yourself, how much money is that worth? And in my opinion, it looks just as good on medium as well. So let me take you through what my current PC is and how it kind of fits together. So I have one of these workstations that you can see here on the screen. So this is a HP Z240, actually it's a Z420 that I've got. Let me just bring up the specs here. So this has got a Xeon CPU. These are an older make of CPUs that people that are actually very usable, have lots of cores, quad core or 6-core, decent clock speed, 3.7 gigahertz. You can overclock these as well. They're actually very usable. This system has a ton of RAM, 36 RAM. This is, if you don't know what RAM is, it sort of allows you to increase the number of concurrent processes you have running at the same time. RAM is sort of like the memory in the computer, how much it can handle at once. For modern PCs, you really shouldn't go below 8. I don't think you could survive without 8 gigabytes of RAM. If you're gaming, you probably want more than 8, probably 16, something like that. Even just using Chrome, can use quite a bit of RAM, as people who have lots of tabs open probably know. But this CPU and GPU inside it, I have a GTX 1070. So this card at the moment goes for, maybe about 250 pounds, 200 to 250 pounds. And so the best thing that I recommend is just get an old office PC, not an old office PC, a decent office PC, and just put a graphics card in there. And for a lot of you, that will be like exactly what you need. You might need a graphics card. Get one that is some years old. You don't need the latest. You shouldn't want the latest because it'll depreciate in value super hard anyway. Graphics cards at the moment, I know, are very expensive. Any sort of 10 series, AMD RX 580, something like that will work for you. Or a GTX 1070, which is the one I have. They're generally good value, and you can still play AAA games, the latest ones at medium settings. I'm running Elden Ring on this PC, very, very comfortably, very nicely, because the workstation office PC is actually powerful enough that I don't need to worry about the CPU. I don't need to worry about the RAM, because it has 36 gigabytes installed on this one. Don't really need to worry about the hard drive. It has a 1 terabyte hard drive. Something I did buy is an SSD. I would recommend people who, if they want a faster kind of PC experience, an SSD is probably going to be your best bet for speeding up your PC. It just makes all the processes faster because it can write to the hard drive and retrieve data a lot faster. So that's something I would recommend. But yeah, what I recommend, just get, so I'm looking at the moment for what the prices are of these HP PCs, and yeah, like, look, you got one with a Xenon processor. This is probably a quad core processor, 3.6 gigahertz, plenty fast enough. In most games, your bottleneck is going to be the GPU anyway. Your CPU doesn't exactly matter as much. Most games are GPU intensive, they're not CPU. Not as CPU intensive, so your CPU is not going to bottleneck you. So this will give you plenty the speed you need, and as well, if you want to use your PC outside of gaming, this will do fine. 16 gigabytes of RAM, perfect. 1 terabyte hard drive, amazing. And Windows 10, and for like £115 posted. So if you get that, what I recommend, if you do buy one of these PCs, you ask people to maybe take a picture of the inside of it, because it's useful to know what kind of power supply it has in the power supply. Because if it doesn't have any extra cables, a lot of these office PCs, they have they're all kind of put together, and so it's hard to take out the power supply and put a new one in. They don't normally fit together, so you're kind of almost forced to stick with the office PC, and you can't really upgrade it very much except put a graphics card in if it has the necessary cables to actually plug in and charge it. So it's worth checking. But in this one, you can see, yeah, it's got the power supply. You've got an old graphics card. Take that out and put in a 1070. You're looking at a really good budget PC for about, well, in this case, it would be £300. But, you know, for a gaming PC minimum, you would pay, you know, £500 for that. And just the extra 2 steps of getting the Office PC and then the graphics card separately, putting them together is going to save you so much money over either building the PC by your hand, by getting all the components and putting them together, because you're often buying new components anyway. I wouldn't recommend buying new, it's just too expensive, especially at the moment. Or just it saves you money over just buying a normal gaming PC all put together because of the premium on gaming, and they have a nice case and so they look nice. You know, this is kind of an ugly machine, but it's going to beat 90% of your friends who have, you know, a gaming machine anyway, and you'll have done it at less price. So this is kind of the thing I recommend. It doesn't have to be this exact model. If you search up, you know, workstation PC or something, or office PC, a lot of times these go on very cheap because their offices, you know, closing down or selling them around COVID time, especially. This was, you know, there were tons of these flooding into the markets, and there's still a lot of them on the markets, and so you can get them very cheap, and so really have a nice gaming experience. So yeah, how much is a GTX 1070 at the moment? Yeah, so 260, 250. Okay, so yeah, you're looking at that, but I would say this is a decent card and will still serve you well, you know, for a number of years to come. I mean, this card is 6 years old, something like that, but still, you know, runs plenty of games very, very decently, to be honest. And so yeah, that's kind of what I would recommend. I don't think you're going to have any trouble with doing this kind of thing. It's safer if you're new to kind of PC building as well. You won't have to worry about the components fitting together. Upgradability in the future is maybe a problem because a lot of these Office PCs, they have old motherboards, and it's difficult to put a new CPU in or something because they're Xenon, they're old kind of tech. They don't work exactly well with the new stuff. So that can be a problem. But honestly, like, I've had mine for maybe, you know, I don't know, 4 years, something like that, and it's been, you know, pretty much amazing this whole time. And because I've sort of got the Office PC, you know, kind of there, it's very fast for browsing the internet, doing all kinds of things, and really, really a nice experience. So yeah, I hope this video helps some of you guys out if you're trying to build, you know, a PC for the first time. It's not the easiest thing to do, especially in 2022. Everything's very expensive, it's hard to do. But I do genuinely believe this is probably the best way to go about it at the moment. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, take care.